The internet is already being used to mould you. I just wonder whether Elon Musk can come and rescue us. Last week, the New Zealand Prime Minister told the United Nations she wanted governments to maybe tweak search results her way.
This week we launched an initiative alongside companies and non-profits to help improve research and understanding of how a person's online experiences are curated by automated processes. As leaders, we're rightly concerned that even the most light touch approaches to disinformation could be misinterpreted as being hostile to the values of free speech that we value so highly. After all, how do you successfully end a war if people are led to believe the reason for its existence is not only legal but noble? How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists?
Yeah, mute the global warming skeptics. Well, in fact, the United Nations this week said it had done just that already. Here is its head of global communications boasting of it.
You know, we partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. You know, we own the science.
The United Nations owns the science. That's a worry when the United Nations is the group that invites teenage climate hysteric Greta Thunberg to come lecture the UN Secretary General personally. That's a worry. And by the way, I did check Google Climate. You Googled the phrase climate change and the UN is right up there in the search results. Joining me are Trevor Long, a leading technology commentator who hosts two popular podcasts, EFTM and Two Blokes Talking Tech, love that title, and tech entrepreneur and commentator Kosha Gada. Trevor Long, I thought years ago the internet was free, certainly free of government control. China, of course, has been trying for years to get that changed through some sort of UN body. So while I was sleeping, has that actually changed in some way?
Evening, Andrea. I think it's an interesting one because the internet is still free and open, but the doorway through which most people access the internet is essentially monitored by a doorman known as Google or Facebook. And the problem is that we don't know by what merit that doorman is letting people in. So it's not like it's a bar and you have to check a driver's license and let people in who are over 18. In this case, there's a hidden algorithm that no one knows what it is, and they're able to tweak it. And in this case, they're able to say, look, if climate change is mentioned, then make this the first result. In the same way that there are other single sources of truth, how many days in a year, Google is going to present that information as a source of truth. Those things are facts, other things are disputed, and it's that issue that we have to worry about, what control Google has over what information we're able to easily find on the internet, because it's out there, but most of us use Google to find it.
Kosha Gada, I just wonder though, like I say, the UN's been trying to, China's been trying to get a UN regulatory body to take overall control of the internet from the sort of opaque kind of private handling that's been done, I think, basically in the US, and give it to a UN body that, and increasingly China's dominating the UN. But have Western governments already got a way through to Google, to Facebook, threatening them with regulation if they don't help groups like the UN?
Great question, Andrew. I think, China is sort of an obvious actor because we know that they're adversarial to these concepts of free speech and everything else. What's really troubling is it's actually free countries such as Jacinta Ardern you just played, and even my home country, the United States, which is the birthplace of big tech, has also been mired in controversies around censorship, leading up to the election in 2020, as you know, with various stories and other things that they've suppressed. Here's sort of the big picture of big tech, I think, that might be a helpful framework for how to think about why this is happening and what to expect next. These 4 to 5 companies have amassed a market power that has never been seen before in history because of the issues that Trevor mentioned, where they sort of are the gateway or the doorway on the back of the technology of the internet that allows human beings to basically converse and communicate with anybody. This has never happened before. And they've gone from launch to $5 trillion plus in market cap in 20 years. That has never happened before in the history of the planet. So you take that level of economic power that they have, and then layer onto that the fact that unlike other valuable companies that came before them, like Ford or Exxon or Walmart or what have you, they trade in the business of information flow. So they are doubly or even more than doubly valuable and influential in terms of the way we communicate or how ideas or narratives are incubated and spread. So if you look at that against a backdrop of the nature of power, it's not surprising that you see actors like China or actors like even governments in free countries, United Nations, what have you, forming these public-private partnerships, or some would say even colluding with them, and you couple all of that power together, that's ultimately what this is about. And I think you're only going to see that trend increase, and it's really, really hard to fight that. There's some things happening. There was some news today, around that happening, but it's just going to be an increasing battle. I think it's a battle of the century, probably.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the UN's quite keen on the global warming thing being controlled, the debate, because, of course, that is an excuse for global international action coordinated by the UN. So it's a power thing for them. We've already had Twitter and Facebook ban Donald Trump. Last week, YouTube also removed a video of the new Italian Prime Minister of the Christian right giving a speech on abortion and women's rights. Here's some of what YouTube deleted.
Esatto contrario. Noi vogliamo garantire diritti che oggi non ci sono. Il diritto per una donna a essere madre senza per questo dover rinunciare ad avere un posto di lavoro. Il diritto di una donna a essere madre, scegliere di non lavorare e non dover per questo morire di fame. Il diritto di una donna che si trova a dover abortire perché non ha alternative, di avere quell'alternativa. Perché non è vero che oggi è garantita l'autodeterminazione delle donne. Se una donna ha solo la possibilità di abortire, quella non è autodeterminazione.
There were protests at that removal. YouTube said, sorry, it was removed in error. Trevor, how do these errors occur when so many of them actually hurt conservatives?
Triggy-happy, moderators who think they're doing the right thing, potentially by their bosses. And I think that's the challenge here, is people feel like there's, people in these organisations feel like there is an agenda, when sometimes there might not be. But, something like that's an interesting example of, is a big company like Google, who owns YouTube, willing to do one-on-one deals with a state like Italy? Are these deals open to all, or are they open to only those that meet a certain agenda? And that's the problem with this, is it needs to be open, it needs to be transparent, which is what we expect of the internet. But in reality, it's probably more about now most of us finding alternatives. But Andrew, Facebook, Google and others are so big, they're now almost impossible to bring down in terms of compete with. And therefore, they've got this established market power that is unlikely to be ever shelved.
I agree with you. This is the thing. I just think now they should be treated as a service like the Post rather than an independent business, because you can't compete against them. But Kosha Gada, we've got Elon Musk finally saying, the world's richest man, look, he's going to go ahead with his offer to buy Twitter. He wanted to pull out because he'd offered too much. Will that make a difference? Because he says he's all more, for free speech and less censorship.
Theoretically, yes, because this is a very unique combination where the richest man in the world happens to be a self-professed free speech absolutist, and you put those two things together, and there might be a groundbreaking path here. The question is, he is going to be met with opposition beyond what he even probably contemplates or has ever received before, because there are a lot of protected interests that don't want that to happen. And the question is, the heat is going to get turned on him. They're going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at him, both in terms of structurally with the company, in terms of personally, attacks against him and against Tesla, as well as activists are going to sort of blame Twitter for the views of unsavory characters that he might allow if he takes it into more of a free speech realm. And the question is he going to be able to stand up to that heat, and how deeply does he believe in this? But he is, an interesting person that could make a difference, but, we'll see. I think we'll have to wait and watch.
And of course, it's only one of the big social media players. Trevor Long, Kosha Gada, it's always fascinating to get your insights. Thank you so much for your time.